Okay, so it's 9:30. It's Monday, August 10th. This is a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners to meet with the school district partners to discuss and determine CARES Act funding allocation for the upcoming school year. I've met with Superintendent Massey in the past couple weeks about some of their needs going into the school year. And because of COVID restrictions, they need to be creative with their curriculum and their approach into in-person learning. And so with that, I'm going to unmute her and let her talk about what their plan is and what their need is.
Thanks for having us here today. We appreciate it. So I would love to kind of give an update on the school district and where we are, and then talk about that need piece. So we had initially rolled out programming to families that included a back to school plan where we would send kids to school on an A-B schedule. So 50% of our kids would be in attendance every other day. And that concept included a re-entry plan that we had been moving forward in planning toward. And then we sent out that initial survey to our families. And as we sent out that surveys to families, we realized there was this really a need for choice for some sort of a virtual or remote learning option for families. And so hearing that very strongly from our community, we went back to the drawing board to talk about what can we offer to our families? What options do we have to service both needs? Because if we just switch to virtual learning, we're still missing the majority of our families who wanted some sort of an in-person approach to schooling, but there was a significant number who wanted a choice. And so as we continue to develop that planning, which allows us to allow a virtual option as well as an in-person model, it really taxes our resources that we wanted to utilize initially for this re-entry concept to school. And that re-entry concept to school was really targeting a few needs. Number one, it was targeting social emotional supports for kids through an outdoor education experience. It allows the numbers in the classroom to be reduced so that our teachers can really service our kids to make sure that they are prepared for whatever model we have to float into, if we have to move to online, if we have to be fully in person, whatever that looks like. That allows that smaller group setting, and it also allows us a smaller group setting for that start of school to start to implement all of our health measures and practices that are going to be new for all of our staff to do and for our students. And so we really feel like there's still this need for some sort of supports for our families for what we're now calling the second day of school, the second day programming, because we have heard, you know, not only there still needs to be some social emotional supports and some targeted instructional supports for those days when kids are away from school, but we also know that there's a need around some childcare supports for our families. And so we've continued to look at what modeling and programming could look like for this. So we have a few different options for that. Becca Katz is here today, and so she's been brainstorming lots of different ideas with lots of different partners to talk about what this could be. And we have some different concepts for moving forward, one of which is most realistic at this point in time due to our lack of staffing resources, is going to be looking to have an outside group really take this on with her guidance and leadership and oversighting that. Would be one of the things that we're really looking at, because even when we were looking at running this programming completely in-house and we posted job descriptions, we did not have the number of applicants apply for that position that would even count to make this programming run. So we're looking at a few different ideas for that, but we do know that right now, what has been preventative in running it has been staffing and has been funding, now that we have had to move over some of our resources to support the online programming option. So I can pause right there. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the different concepts that you have, Becca.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hear me okay over there?
Say that one more time, Becca.
Oh, I was seeing if you could hear me okay. I'm going to switch seats if that's me. Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Becca.
How are you all?
Hi, Becca. Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I'm smiling. I know you can't tell. I am, so we've been looking into a couple of different things. Initially, we were looking at how we would do this in-house, and as Bethany mentioned, staffing alone has been an intimidating thing to try to do. For K through 6, we would estimate that there would be about somewhere between 25 and 28 positions that would need to be hired in order to accommodate all of our students. We don't know if all of our students are going to be there, right? So that's like the high-end estimate, but right now, I posted jobs for an internal thing now 2 weeks ago, and we have 3 or 4 applicants, right? So we're pretty far off of that number. And so we've been looking at partners, as Bethany mentioned, and right now, the thing that's been interesting is right now our leading opportunity probably is to partner with an organization called the 100 Elk Outdoor Center, which is down in Buena Vista, and it is a outdoor adventure, outdoor ed sort of organization. Of note, they have done lots of programming with schools before, not with our schools, but they've done programming with public schools, with private schools. They are a secular arm of what is a religious organization, but they are secular and they've done programming with other public schools before this. So if you go to the 100 Elk website, the only real references to any sort of religious things are like, and we're affiliated with this other thing over here that is a religious organization. So I think we're okay on that. And they have the staff and the facility capacity to accommodate all of our students in what would be essentially a program where students on their off days would be, on their second days, they would be spending about a half of the day engaged in social emotional learning, outdoor ed, outdoor fun curriculum, and then about half the day focused on academic supports for the learning that, so if their teachers had assigned them something to complete on the day that they would be at home, instead they would be with us, but down at 100 Elk Outdoor Center in Buena Vista, and they would be completing those academic tasks for part of the day. And so I spoke with the director of 100 Elk about that concept, and she said that their leaders would be happy to be supporting academic learning, and they could actually provide an indoor location for each cohort to stay. So the cohorts would still stay together on their off days is the idea. Those cohorts would be able to be outdoors half the day, and then they'd be able to like be in a cabin that would allow them to still be at adequate distance. And you know, they'd be able to do their academic work in that other half a day. So really trying to make sure that we're focusing on social emotional learning and academic support, overseen by their staff down at 100 Elk, which they have enough staff and they have the facility capacity to do this. And at the moment, their daily rate, student day rate is less expensive than it would be to do in-house based on budget estimations, and they also will be able to foster better ratios than we would be able to do in-house, in part because when we do things in-house, we end up paying the para, the public employees retirement contribution, as well as Medicare, and those things plus our daily rate for these kinds of positions is higher than what they're paying their counselors. It's essentially like summer camp staff, if you imagine, right? So this is like recent high school, young college age students who are who work there typically in the summer, some of whom are staying on in the fall. Probably not the high schoolers as much, but they will have a fall staff that usually does fall school curriculum, and they have way less fall programming because of the current situation. So that's a general premise. I don't know if you guys have questions about that concept.
Just Becca, I'm sorry. Can you say the name of the organization one more time? I don't think that I heard you completely.
Yeah, it's called the 100 Elk Outdoor Center.
100 Elk Outdoor Center? Okay, thank you. And then you're saying that they are, we would bus kids down there, or kids would be expected to get there, or that kind of logistics hasn't necessarily been ironed out yet, but students would go to Buena Vista?
Yeah, so I asked them about them coming up here to run the programming, and I think because of facilities, what I initially, Kayla and Sarah and Mark, I think I sent all of you and Amber the thing about, you know, the Mineral Belt Trail and like the county-owned land, and that was for our in-house version. And I asked their staff if they'd be willing to come up here and sort of run it on our in-house infrastructure if we set that up. And they essentially said that that would be really hard for them because I think they rely on some of their infrastructure for their bag of tricks relies on their infrastructure. So like the game sites that they have and the whatnot. And then additionally, our infrastructure doesn't allow for an easy like indoor academic support option as well. So we would, tentatively right now, we've talked about providing busing to bring students down to BB. And they would be in cohorts on their buses. So we might have 2 cohorts in a bus, for example, to get down to BB and then in the morning. So we would need to figure out some logistics on this end, of course, to make that happen. But the intention was not to have parents having to drive down to BB to drop their kids off. So.
And why this is a little different than the morning transportation, why we see this being a little different is because in the morning transportation, you have a mixed group of kids who have not been cohorted on a bus because it's by location. Whereas what we would be looking at a model to do is getting the kids dropped off at the school, organizing them by their cohorts and keeping them in their classroom cohorts on that route down. And so that is really that model we've been talking about and why that looks a little different. One of the other things that we like about this piece is that they are allowing Becca to come in and do the training of their staff around the social emotional supports so that it is in alignment with what we already do in the schools. As well as our COVID health practices. So she would be doing the training of the staff and what they are delivering to our kids. And so again, that would be our programming that we're providing to the kids just on their facilities. And then we have trained up their staff.
Are the Chaffey County schools also doing this kind of thing with the center?
I have not heard of them doing this, no.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they're not pursuing it, but we do not have any idea that they are.
I was just curious if there was a bigger conversation over, like with public health or their board of health or county on any concern or kind of increased exposure transmission, but okay. So I think it sounds like a great option. And the ask is exactly for what through CARES? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes. Paul, do you want to speak to the dollars? You want to switch me seats?
Yeah, can you hear me? Does that
Yeah.
sound good?
Yep.
Yep, we can hear you.
Good. So just in trying to come up with a budget, total need, we're thinking around 70 students per grade. It'd be K through 6, so 7 total grades for 490 students. But then there'd be cohort A and B, so we'd be looking at 50% of that. It's around 245 students
A day.
per cohort.
Great.
And then we're anticipating around 70% participation. There'd be 172 students is hopefully a high-end number of students we'd actually be looking to transport off-site. $35 per student, which comes out to $6,020 per day. Current state guidelines would allow up to 30 kids per bus. So we'd need 6 buses, 4 hours per driver, so 24 hours per day. Should be $690 in driver wages. So roughly $6,710 per day. For a 4-day week, Monday through Thursday, is $26,840 for a week. We're looking at running it for 4 weeks, August 31 through September 24th. That total would be $107,360. We initially set aside $72,000 of the school district's CRF dollars. So the remaining need if participation was this high, would be $35,360. So there's a lot of factors that are variables. We don't know how much the participation will be, but based on our best guess right now, the 35,000 is the current need we would be looking to offset.
Including students and busing in total, the 35? Okay.
Yes.
Paul, that's for an estimated how many total students?
172.
So 8 days of programming for 172, or 16 days of programming for 172 kids.
Yes.
Okay, and that's with the $35 per day.
Yep.
And how many cohorts would those 172 kids be in? Basically 17 cohorts-ish?
6 buses, so kind of will depend how big the cohorts are, how many can fit on a bus with spacing and.
Yeah, I had done bus analysis based on keeping them in cohorts and keeping it under 30, because I was told that was with the initial numbers, and I ended up with needing 10 buses to keep, if they're true, that was with 100% kids, right? So this would be less than that, but I would guess it would be more than 6 buses if we really have that kind of drop. Because if you need to keep cohorts separate,
Yep.
which will impact the budget, obviously.
And we'll be able to look at those numbers later today because families have finishing putting in those survey pieces, so we'll be able to get. But I don't know if you could hear that, but we're talking about the number of kids enrolling, and so we had that survey out for families. And so right now, some of our staff is working on putting that information into, pulling that information to see how many kids we're really looking at for the virtual and for the online. And then we have individuals today that are spending their day calling any families that have not registered yet. So after today, we should have a better idea of how those numbers fall out.
Okay. And so I'm sorry, I may have missed that. I was taking notes. Paul, the total amount that you would need from us to supplement would be
35,360?
Yes, based on the 6 buses. So participation and the cohorting can really affect the total cost, but for now, that's a good estimate for the need.
I don't have any, I'm sorry, I don't have any problem supporting the school district with this. I am very curious what the numbers are going to look like. And I also, for whatever it's worth, if you haven't already heard something similar in feedback, I know a lot of parents who opted into the in-person, but understand that there's a physical, there's only so many numbers or that you can meet with the space. And so a lot of people are saying, if I have to do online, we can certainly do that. But I'm sure that's kind of a follow-up for you all, to parents to figure out once you get the numbers and look through the results today.
Yeah. So the only question that I have to make sure that we're allocating our CARES money appropriately is just to make sure that you guys don't have an additional stream of funding or anything like that that could cover this, that's not covering this. That's the only information really that we would need. And then we would just need to gather like an invoice and the meeting minutes from today in order to submit for reimbursement through the CARES Act funding to get that from you. And I think we could work through some of those logistics together as if we do approve this?
Currently, we had been talking about if this is not going to be a possibility, we were going to look for additional grant writing to try to support this. And so that was our latest conversation.
Okay, cool. I don't have any questions at this point. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions or anything to add at this point?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Commissioner Mudge, do you have anything else to add or any questions left to ask?
I don't think anything that's necessarily appropriate for the conversation. I mean, I'm just curious whether you pay out the outdoor center, regardless of whether or not an outbreak happens and something needs to be done and changed, how contingent upon Chaffey County status will the program be? You know, will they, I'm just thinking from a parent perspective, you know, if they don't have a similar cohort, that might make me feel better as a parent that there's not, you know, these two different student bodies commingling. I don't know what your conversations with the outdoor center has been to make sure that that does not happen. And if there's any other concern from like Chaffey Public Health or whatnot on contact tracing in the event of transmission.
Becca and Taylor will be headed that way today to continue conversations and talk through. So those are some great questions that maybe they can ask today specifically.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I feel pretty comfortable at this point making or entertaining a motion for us to approve or disapprove any funding.
I'll move to, well, I'm not sure. I mean, would you all say that this is really a final ask, or should we, I mean, can we make a motion
That's a good question.
can we make a motion to at least earmark $40,000 out of the CARES Act funding that we're getting, presuming that the actual need could be less than or greater than that 35,640, was it? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Or 360?
360.
360.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to earmark $40,000 out of the county's CARES Act funding to support the Lake County School District and their alternative curriculum.
Okay, second. All right, Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion?
I have nothing.
All right, Commissioner Mudge.
Just that, you know, I think the ongoing conversation, and we can make a formal allocation of the exact amount and whatever else might be needed in the coming weeks once you all learn more and get logistics down. But that will be done, well, presuming that the vote passes, that will be earmarked for support.
Awesome. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sarah.
No, you're fine. Thanks.
Sure. So seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So Bethany, I will work with you and Rena to figure out the logistics of how this works with reimbursement for CARES Act funding, and then we can go from there. But I think that we're happy to support you in your endeavor in reopening schools safely. So, yeah, go ahead.
I do have a couple of questions for you. I think we're really curious, and maybe we're trying to collect these numbers and this information elsewhere. But I think it might be really helpful, or we might not yet know what the information could be helpful for, if we could understand some more statistics with the school student body and the parents, and commuting and that, so that we can really figure out those other unmet needs pieces. And I know the communication is always really open and great, but if there's any specific information that you all start gleaning from the responses of the surveys or otherwise, I think it'd be really great to share that, and vice versa, if there's anything that you all are more curious about, so that we can target and be sure to kind of support, unemployment and commuters and those kinds of things. So I'm sorry if that question wasn't exactly clear, but if you either I don't know if you start adding questions or just anecdotally keeping, tracking some of that feedback that you might get.
Sure thing. You're saying as we continue to roll this forward, to track some of that and help communicate it, we'd be happy to do that. Currently, the survey we sent out this weekend didn't have any open-ended responses. It was just select your type of enrollment or your enrollment choice.
Yeah.
But as we continue to explain this to our community and provide this additional option, then I do think, and it would anticipate that we will have some feedback. So that would be great. I know we are also happy to share as we start to see what data looks like after today. So we would be happy to share that with you guys too, to update you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for the hard work and thought that has gone into this.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything before we adjourn today?
I do not.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Bethany and school district partners. We appreciate it. Anything else, Commissioner Mudge, before we adjourn?
No.
Okay.
Thank you,
thank
Becca
you,
and
everyone.
Paul, Bethany.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. At 9:58, we will adjourn today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.